I keep my goals to myself, cause whenever I share it with folks, they get a look upon their face and their memory floats to a time where their goals and the stars ain't...
What's good? We're going to get into Sacrifice from March the 27th, 2026. This was an okay TNA Plus event. This was one of their weaker shows, if you ask me. There was some interesting stuff that occurred on this show. And I dug the opener of the show on the main card, which was Leon Slater and Eric Young. I thought that was a good match because of Leon Slater. So that was great. And Ricky Sosa is finally TNA. He's officially a part of the TNA roster. So that's great. Excellent stuff there. Other than that, man, this show really, to me, was a no-go. And there was a little bit of controversy in the main event. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the show. I did watch the pre-show, however. So there were two matches on the pre-show. Match 1, Ryan Nemeth defeated BDE. Match was okay. It didn't last long. It was quite short. So BDE went for the frog splash. And then Ryan Nemeth got his knees up. And then he grabbed the tights. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's fine there. BDE has only been in the business for like 2 years. But TNA, to me, is the perfect destination for him. He's fairly young. I think he's, I want to say, mid-20s. I think Mike Hannafin, Tom Hannafin, I think he said that BDE is like 27 or 28. Or maybe that was Aiden English. My bad. It was Matthew Raywall, a.k.a. Aiden English, that said that on commentary. So BDE's fairly young, which is great. Same with Ricky Sosa. He's like 21. He's the same age as Leon Slater. So good for TNA bringing in these young guys. Keep up the good work in that department, and I like it. Really good stuff there. Moving on. Second match on the pre-show. Tessa Blanchard defeated Jody Threat. The match was okay. So basically, her faction got involved. I can't remember what the faction's called. But they got involved, and this allowed for Tessa Blanchard to hit the buzzsaw for the 1, 2, 3. It's fine. I mean, it is what it is. Post-match, Jody Threat got choked the fuck out with a production cable, which was kind of cool. They were going to do a little bit more damage, but the officials stopped it. So that's fine, I guess. It is what it is. Again, how the mighty have fallen for Tessa Blanchard. She's not doing much of anything. This is really low mid-card stuff. Like, she's not even been on the actual... She wasn't even on the actual show itself. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're doing with Tessa Blanchard. It's not a good look, but hopefully she can kind of bounce back at some point and get back where she used to be. Moving on. On to the main card. First match of the night. Leon Slater defeated Eric Young to retain the X Division Championship. Match was pretty good because of Leon Slater. Leon Slater is phenomenal. So Eric Young attacked Leon before the match. Again, TNA needs to avoid doing the same thing twice in one show. They did this exact same thing in the Knockout Triple Threat involving Daniel Luna, Ariana Grace, and Lei Ying Lee, a.k.a. Xia Li. They did it in that match as well. So they need to avoid trying to do the same thing within the same show. So, yeah. But match was pretty solid. So Leon got a bunch of his flips and kicks in, which was great. Really good moves there. He got a bunch of stuff in. He did a great twisting net breaker. That shit was insane. I love that. So towards the end of the match, Eric Young, he did the power driver on the apron Leon Slater rolled out. I thought that was it for him. I'm glad he was able to kick out. So, Eric Young ended up hitting the Styles Clash, and Leon Slater kicked out. Then Leon Slater hit the Styles Clash on Eric Young, followed by the Swanton 450 for the 1-2-3. That's fine. So this is fine. Eric Young did the Styles Clash in the middle of the match, basically. So there's that. I don't understand why TNA has this fascination still with Eric Young. It makes no damn sense. It's stupid. Enough of this Eric Young cleanse bullshit. What TNA needs to really do is to make him a producer. Alright, moving on. This leads us into Mike Santana. He's backstage talking to Gia Miller. He says, the title represents the sacrifices that he has made over the years, like missing with his baby girl to get here as the world champion. Yes, he got Steve Maclin his job back and his payment. He's eating. He's gonna eat Steve Maclin's heart. Okay, what the fuck? So Mike Santana's a vampire all of a sudden? I have no idea. But it is what it is. All right, moving on from that, let's lead us into the hometown man, aka Diener and Elijah. They were defeated by Frankie Kazarian and AJ Francis. Don't care about this. Who cares? I'm not a fan of Diener. Not a fan of Frankie Kazarian. I'm kind of a fan of AJ Francis. I like him. He's solid as a character in ring work. Not so much. I mean, he can put on a match or two when he wants to. And Elijah, I've always liked Elijah since he was in WWE. So there's that. Moving on from that, this leads us into Tommy Dreamer and Carlos Silva. They came out. So Dreamer talked about the history of being in Louisiana and everything else, in New Orleans and all that jazz. Then Carlos Silva came out, and then they introduced Chris Bay, who got a really good reaction. So Chris Bay talked about the success that he has, that he had over the years. And so he introduced TNA's newest signee, which is Ricky Sosa. So he's solid. Ricky's like 21, same age as Leon Slater. So he just talks to the crowd and everything else and thanks them. And Ricky is now part of TNA. So that's good. Really good stuff there. Again, TNA is making these decent signings that they're bringing in young guys, which I do like. So that's a plus there. But you need more than just BDE and Ricky Sosa. You need to bring in a lot more young guys, right? Like, if they can bring in a bunch of 21 to like 29-year-olds in, that would be great. See if they can get them from the indies. If Tony Khan wasn't so damn stubborn, maybe he could release a couple that he didn't have any plans for, release them. But you know how that is. But it is what it is. So good stuff there. Moving on. This leads us into Milla Moore. She was backstage. So the White Rabbit showed up, and Havoc, she's back. We haven't seen Havoc in probably about a year or 2 years at this point. So she ended up abducting Milla Moore, and that was it. So there's that. Moving on. This leads us into the triple threat match. Ariana Grace, she defeated Lei Ying Lee, aka Xia Li, and Danny Luna to retain the Knockouts World Championship. Match was pretty okay. Danny Luna got a bunch of her power moves in. Again, Danny Luna, she attacked Xia Li before the match got started, just like how Eric Young attacked Leon Slater earlier on in the night, a few matches prior. So I didn't like that. I don't know why they did that. Again, not a good fan of that. You really don't need to do the same thing on multiple shows. Not a good look. So Stax ended up getting involved in everything. Then basically Xia Li hit the Warrior's Way, Stacks broke it up, and then Ariana pinned Danny Luna for the 1, 2, 3. This is fine, so it is what it is. Ariana Grace is solid. Again, I don't know who's going to be the one to dethrone her. It should go to Mara Sade, who spoiler alert, won her match with Elena Black, aka Cora Jade. So, you know, there is that. So, good stuff there. This is fine. Again, this is good. Moving on. This leads us into Order 4, Mustafa Ali and Tasha Steelz versus Jada Stone and Trey Miguel. So, Order 4, they get the win. This was a pretty okay match. Jada Stone shows a lot of promise. She's great. I think she's young too. I think she's in her early 20s. I want to say between like 21 and maybe 24. So there's that. So that's fine. Match was really good here. A bunch of really good spots from Trey Miguel and Mustafa Ali. Again, my problem with TNA is they need to quit doing these intergender matches and stuff so much. It's not a good look. Again, this is total indie shit, and I wish they would stop doing it. So, towards the end of the match, Mustafa Ali, he got involved. They ended up zip tying Trey Miguel, the great hands, they got involved, and they ended up, zip tying Trey Miguel. This allowed for Mustafa Ali to hit the devil inside. And then he ended up doing a 450 splash to Jada Stone for the 1, 2, 3, which is weird. Like, why are we doing this shit? Like, why are we doing this? This is so stupid. This is so stupid. I hate this. But it seems like they are pushing Jada Stone. Like I said, she's doing fairly well. She's doing very good. She is basically like Black Kendall Gray. Like, that's what they're portraying her here as. Like, she's very solid. She's very decent in ring. She's a firecracker. Like, she's really fucking good. I'm really digging Jada Stone. I really am. I'm digging her. I like her. I do. She needs a little bit more personality and stuff, but she's very solid in ring. Very solid. Moving on, this leads us into backstage stuff involving Ariana Grace and Stacks. So they laugh at Xia Li and Xia Brookside for defending her friend. So they argue over their fathers. So Santana Marella show up, and he makes a title match for Impact. And Stacks calls Santana Marella a terrible father, so that's fine there. Again, I'm loving Ariana Grace's character. I always have. Again, she's a character wrestler, not a wrestler. Yeah, moving on. Eddie Edwards versus Moose. This one was short here. So Eddie got the match thrown out. He ended up bringing in Kenny the kendo stick. So Eddie and Moose, they fought for a brief second. Then the big guy, who is what is his name? Agent Zero. Yeah, Agent Zero. He showed up and he beat up Moose. So the referee throughout the match, which was great. So there is that. Apparently, it seems like, well, I forgot to mention earlier on in the pre-show, the System and Order 4, they had a meeting of sorts where they're doing an alliance with each other at Rebellion and everything. So there's that. And then they ended up double-crossing each other after all is said and done. So that's fine there. Moving on, Mara Sade defeated Elena Black in a no DQ match. This match was pretty tame and standard. There was no blood involved, which was good. There were thumbtacks involved, however. They did a really cool spot there. So they ended up bringing in a table, not a table, but a steel chair. Marsha, they did a really cool moonsault off of it. Then she ended up doing a back suplex into some thumbtacks, and then she ended up hitting her moonsault for the 1, 2, 3. Marsha wins. Match was quite tame and quite short, which is really fucking good. So I do like this. So they're now 1-1 and good. So maybe the feud ends at Rebellion. But we'll have to wait and see how things play out. Moving on. This leads us into the System. They were on the show again. They defeated Vincent and Jeff Hardy. Towards the end of the match, basically, we go to the back. Matt Hardy is bleeding from his mouth, and his eyes are taped shut. And it was Dutch who laid him out and attacked him. And this allowed for the System to... Well, Cedric Alexander got the win. Hitting the lumbar check for the 1-2-3. So there's that. Again, I'm not a fan of the System. The only member of the... Well, there's only 2 members of the System I like. Bear Bronson because he's young. And because he got fucked over by his former AEW tag team partner. That dumb fuck. And then I also like Cedric Alexander. So I'm a big fan of Cedric. If only Cedric could get away from the fucking System, though. Okay. Moving on from that. This leads us into the Elegance brand. They showed up. They made fun of the crowd and everything else. ODB showed up, and then Terrence Terrell showed up. So Mr. Elegance, he threatened to beat up ODB. Then Mickie James came out. She got a really good reaction. She made fun of the personal concierge. Called him Pickle Dick, which was hilarious. And a brawl broke out after all that. And then basically the Knockouts Legends, they beat up the Elegance brand. So there's that. So I like this. Apparently this is going to set up a 6 knockout tag at Rebellion, more than likely. Mickie James, Terrence Terrell, ODB versus Ash, Heather, and M by Elegance. That should be fun as fuck. I do like that. I really do. All right, moving on from that. Apparently, Santina Marella and Daria Ray, they're arguing over the main event. And Daria doesn't want Santina Marella to pick sides, which is smart, which is wise. Main event of the evening, Mike Santana versus Steve Maclin for the TNA World Championship. It was a no contest. It was very short. Maclin apparently got injured. I thought that was a work, but nah. They legitimately had officials come out and everything else. Carlos Silva was out there as well, checking on Maclin, and they took him out of the match. Eddie Edwards showed up. His sorry ass showed up again on this show for a second time. He got beat up by Mike Santana. Mike Santana ended up hitting a spin the block, and he ended up doing a frog splash and took out Eddie Edwards. And then he stood tall with the TNA World title. And so it was announced that Mike Santana retained via a no contest, which is kind of interesting. Hopefully Steve Maclin is okay. It seems like this could be a worked injury, basically. What I mean by that is this is a way for them to get out of the match. Because we knew that Steve Maclin was going to lose anyway. But I got a feeling they're probably going to end up doing probably a fatal 4-way. Steve Maclin, Mike Santana, Eddie Edwards, and Nick Namath, who earlier on during the pre-show promised to cash in his Call Your Shot Gauntlet trophy, since Rebellion is going to be in Cleveland, Ohio, his hometown. So, there's that. That's fine. Makes perfect sense. So maybe they end up doing that there. And personally, even though I'm not a fan of Fatal 4-Ways, I think that's the best decision that they can do and go with, if we're being honest. Like, what other options do they have? You can't do Mike Santana and Eddie Edwards. Fuck no. Fuck that. I don't want to see Mike Santana and Nick Namath again. We just saw that not too long ago. So this Fatal 4-Way is their best option. Because, again, Mike Santana has really no credible heels to face outside of Nick Namath and Steve Maclin. There's no more credible heels outside of those two. So, there's that. And I just see them going in that direction. It would make sense to just go ahead and do a Fatal 4-Way, if we're being honest. So that makes the most sense. But Sacrifice was okay for the most part. I didn't really enjoy any of the matches on here except for the opener. Everything else on the show was so-so for me, basically. So it is what it is. But TNA, as per usual, needs to get new talent. That's their only problem. New talent. But this show was kind of weak for me. But what did you guys think? Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.